Property damage liability helps pay for damage you cause to other people's vehicles or property in an at-fault accident. A state minimum or liability-only policy typically includes at least two types of insurance: bodily injury liability and property damage liability. So let's get into it. Jerry's got your back. Property damage liability is a type of third-party coverage that helps pay for repairs and replacement of vehicles and property following an accident you caused. Things covered by property damage liability include vehicles, houses, mailboxes, landscaping, business storefronts, and public property. It also covers legal fees associated with property damage claims. Property damage liability goes hand in hand with bodily injury liability, which helps pay for medical bills and expenses for people injured or killed in an accident where you're at fault. Together, property damage liability and bodily injury liability help drivers meet states' financial responsibility requirements, which ensure you can cover at least some of the damage you cause in an accident. But state-mandated limits are rarely enough to cover all of the costs associated with an at-fault accident, which is why insurance experts recommend purchasing higher limits than your state requires. State minimum limits for liability insurance are typically represented by three numbers on a policy, like 25, 50, 25. Which would translate to $25,000 per person and $50,000 per accident in bodily injury liability coverage and $25,000 per accident in property damage liability coverage. Mandated limits for property damage liability range from $5,000 to $25,000 depending on your state. Considering the average cost to replace a total vehicle is over $45,000, it's clear why insurance experts recommend raising property damage liability limits to at least $50,000. And keep in mind, property damage liability does not cover damage to your own vehicle or property. You'll need a full coverage policy that includes collision and comprehensive insurance for that. So I know what you're thinking, how much does all this cost? Well, property damage liability typically isn't sold on its own. Instead, it'll be a part of your overall liability coverage, which costs an average of $928 per year for minimum coverage. A full coverage policy with increased liability limits averages about $1,985 per year. More expensive, but well worth the peace of mind. Now, if you're worried about affording the level of coverage you need, go to the link in the video description below and download the Jerry app. We've helped thousands of drivers save on car insurance so they can afford the coverage they need, and we're definitely here to help you too.
Jerry, the All Car app that's got your back. Because we car.